All right, what's going on, everyone? The New York Knicks have a head basketball coach. His name is Mike Brown. He's very experienced. And he ends the 1 month period in which the New York Knicks had no coach. And I think people were split on their level of patience, but now it doesn't matter because there's a coach. If you think the 50th pick in the draft, like, oh, they can't, how can they make a draft pick without a coach? I don't think anyone's losing sleep over that. Hey, man, Mike Brown, 11 years of NBA head coaching experience, 454 wins, 304 losses in his coaching career, and a better playoff record than Tom Thibodeau. So, I think there's something there. You look into NBA coaching, the coach register on Basketball Reference, and you'll see Tom Thibodeau has coached the 23rd most playoff games ever at 103. Mike Brown tied for 30. Oh no, yeah, tied for 32nd with Rudy Tomjanovich for 90 and 40 in those games. Thibodeau 48 and 55. Um, Brown has been to the finals as a head coach. He did not win it. Brown has won 4 titles as an assistant coach. So that is something that the Knicks reportedly liked, was the fact that he had experience. I can read you guys the exact quotes. The Knicks wanted experience when looking for Tom Thibodeau's replacement, per league sources, says James Edwards III of The Athletic. He also noted, yes, that Brown has won 4 NBA titles as an assistant or associate coach. Another note that James had was the Knicks liked that Brown came up under Popovich, worked alongside Kerr, and won championships with both. So Greg Popovich and Steve Kerr on the coaching tree is pretty solid. The fact that he won NBA championships with both head coaches, obviously he wasn't out there making shots, or he was not the head coach on the staff, but he was an assistant or associate for 4 different championships with multiple different head coaches. So he's seen what a championship team looks like. He knows what the makeup has been historically for those 4 teams. Some other notes that James Edwards had that I thought were really interesting. I thought this was great reporting from him. A lot of tidbits in his article that I don't think have made the aggregation rounds yet. New York liked that Brown has worked with LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and Steph Curry, says James Edwards. The Knicks liked that he came up under Popovich, worked alongside Kerr, won chips with both. The Knicks were impressed at how he turned the Kings around. Um, and the best offensive efficiency in 2023 with the Kings since they've been tracking it in 96. The Knicks turned to Mike Brown to get them from point B to C, impressed by, well, point B to C, and I guess C to D if D is the championship, C being the finals itself. Mike Brown has been to point C, not recently, not anytime recently, not in the last decade, not recently. Uh, Tom Thibodeau never having been to point C as a head coach, never having been to, actually, he did get to point D as an assistant. That was a whole thing. So Brown, a couple more championships than that, but that's no measure of coaching ability. Sam Quinn with CBS Sports had a great tweet earlier today. He said something like, I'm seeing a lot of discourse about whether or not Mike Brown is a better coach than Tom Thibodeau. And I'll say, editors know that discourse makes sense. We're doing it right now a little bit. But he said what matters in his opinion is that he's a different coach. Sometimes that's just what it takes. Sometimes it just takes a different voice in the room. The Kings had Mike Brown and decided they needed a different voice in the room than him. Um, Again, Mike Brown better or worse than Tom Thibodeau? That is not the point. The point is the Knicks left last season saying, we don't know exactly who we're going to end up with, but we know we don't want to be with you. Um, I don't know what can you do in that situation besides, your Tibbs. You just got to okay, turn away, right? Um, all that said, I think it's important to note Mike Brown, and we can get into some technical stuff with him, some X's and O's stuff. But just someone who's passionate about basketball, someone who I can report, I guess, like really wanted this position. I think some people in NBA circles kind of thought, okay, you just got paid $17 million to not coach the Kings. You're 55. You're in no rush to go get back into the mix or whatever. I feel like Mike Brown wants to coach the Knicks to a championship this season. Like that, obviously coaches want it, but like I get the sense that that's actually what he wants to do with his life. Is like he doesn't want to just sit or chill for a year or go learn again from someone else. He wants to earn this opportunity. He did earn the opportunity, um, and now Knicks are locked and loaded. They add two free agents in Clarkson and Yabusele. We'll talk about both of those players, how they factor in, how new head coach Mike Brown may use Jordan Clarkson and Guerschon Yabusele on the New York Knicks. We'll talk about that all, but to keep the topic on Mike Brown just for a little bit, let's just discuss a bit what it was that the Knicks liked about him. We'll recap. Uh, NBA head coaching experience, 11 years. Worked with LeBron, Kobe, and Steph. Worked with Pop and Steve Kerr. Won championships with Pop and Steve Kerr. Turned the Kings around. 45 wins back-to-back years for the first time since 2006. De'Aaron Fox developed into an all-star. Domantas Sabonis was traded for because he was an all-star caliber player, but he and Fox together were on the team in 2023 that Brown led to have the best offensive efficiency since tracking began in 1996. So the appeal is there. You understand what it is that the Knicks saw here in a passionate head coach and Mike Brown, someone who they said, okay, this is a great guy. This is a great coach who we think can have a different approach that can help take us to the next level. Something I pointed to on Twitter just now, but right before starting this show, was the oh, what a strange tweet by Chris Haynes. Okay, anyway, something that I pointed to on Twitter was the fact that a lot of people, a lot of reporters on the Knicks beat that are doing great reporting with this coaching hire, by the way. Shout out again to James Edwards for the great piece for The Athletic with all those tidbits. Something that they've all noted is collaboration. Mike Brown, collaboration with the front office. That is something that we have always been consistent in reporting. Was adamant, was something the Knicks were adamant about. Was at least looking into the extent to which a coach would collaborate with them. Again, I had heard in the winter that some sources close to the situation believed Tom Thibodeau would not return as head coach of the New York Knicks unless he led the team to an Eastern Conference Finals appearance. It was a high bar, but it was one that Thibodeau met with the Knicks. Something that may have played a role in that bar eventually being raised at the end of the season and Thibodeau not clearing where it ended up was the gentle lineup suggestion the front office made during the Boston Celtics series, in which they suggested Mitchell Robinson over Josh Hart, a change that Thibodeau eventually made after the Knicks were down 0-2 to the Indiana Pacers in the third round of the NBA playoffs. So Tom Thibodeau, suggested, nudged to make the change, did not make it. The Knicks were up 2-0, I believe, when he was given this suggestion. He said, we're not going to change what we've been doing. We are, 88, however many, 90 games at that point into starting the same lineup. It's not about to change now, especially when we're up 2-0 on the defending champions. So, Tom Thibodeau, someone who, in his career has never changed the starting lineup when winning a series. Tied, yes. Losing, yes. Never when winning a series during a series. And so they weren't looking necessarily for Tom Thibodeau to reinvent the wheel and become a completely different coach. But you did get the sense that once they fired him, that was part of why he was let go. The end of season player meetings, only including some players, make you feel like they had already made up their mind on firing Thibodeau and they just wanted to check it. They didn't feel like they needed to run it by the veterans that only played at the very end of the season, or the rookies, or maybe they did ask a rookie or two what they thought. I'm not sure exactly which players spoke with the ownership and the front office in that situation there, but you got the sense that the Knicks wanted someone else at the head coaching position. And Mike Brown ended up being that guy for them. So some things I want to bring up. The Keon Ellis thing in Sacramento, right? Knick fans, no stranger to a head coach having a talented young player on their roster and not allowing that player, not making that player usurp a talented, respectable, deserving veteran in the rotation, even if that young player deserves the rotation spot that veteran has more than said veteran, even if it makes more sense on the court or off the court. God, I suck at speaking English. Regardless of that, the coaches, they have their tenets, they have their things, they have their bare minimums. Keon Ellis, someone who I think a lot of Knick fans could look at and say, man, Alec Burks and Elfrid Payton and Emmanuel Quickley. Oh man, we had Tibbs this, Tibbs that, Tibbs this, Tibbs that. Veteran, blah, blah, whatever. Here's Mike Brown. He's gonna do it all over again. Keon Ellis, he just did it in Sacramento, then he got fired. Now we're scooping this guy up first chance we get. Are you kidding me? I understand that. I will say, I think there's something to the fact that Keon Ellis, when he wasn't in the rotation, when people like myself, I know Hot Hand Theory, a lot of you guys are fans of them, they were calling for him to play much more. A lot of creators and reporters, analysts, like people on every level of the basketball world were looking at the Kings being like, that it's interesting that they're not playing Keon Ellis more. And I do think it's worth noting that when that was happening, he was on a two-way contract with a limited amount of service time, a limited amount of games he could play in the season while signed to that contract. Once he was signed, and I know the Kings had to make, I believe, a different, DeAndre Ayton player option on the second year of his 2-year, $16.5 million deal with the Lakers. Okay. Once Keon Ellis, the Kings had made a move, and the corresponding move was to sign Keon Ellis to a regular NBA contract, a standard deal, as opposed to a two-way deal. He did play in the rotation pretty regularly. So I do think it's worth noting there that I'm not sure that Mike Brown deserves to be totally vindicated for the Keon Ellis situation last season in Sacramento, but I am sure that the contract situation played a role in that. And I checked with people in Sacramento who verified that was something that played a role in Keon Ellis's involvement or lack thereof early on last season. So that's something I wanted to note with regard to Mike Brown, with regard to maybe a still sore wound for Knick fans when they see Emmanuel Quickley or Quentin Grimes succeeding on their new teams is, well, even when Tom Thibodeau likes a young player in the draft, like Deuce McBride or Quentin Grimes, there's no guarantee that player will be given a chance to start or contribute at a high level, particularly in the postseason. Well, I don't think so. I think Tibbs gave young players a lot of chances, and he didn't give them all the chances he should have, but he also didn't run all the right plays he should have. And he didn't, like, no coach is ever going to do everything perfect. So I think it's best not to dwell. But I will say, I understand anyone thinking Mike Brown will bring the same issue to the table, but I do think it's worth noting, like I said, again, there were some contract aspects to that Keon Ellis situation. Let's talk about Mike Brown as a defensive coordinator. The Warriors defensive coordinator. He was in 2022 to 2023. Was it? No, 2021 to 2022. Mike Brown, Warriors defensive coordinator. If you remember the Andrew Wiggins playoff run, culminating in Steph Curry's first finals MVP of his career, Mike Brown was the architect of that team's defense, and Warriors fans are proud to tell you that. I've spoken to Warrior fans who are very proud to say, yeah, that guy designed our defense, and it was awesome, and we were locking guys up, and Wiggins on all these different, on Luka in Dallas, and all these different players. Certainly impressive. The Warriors had good personnel, but I think they've had a really great defense, and there must have been some sort of great mind meld between Mike Brown and Draymond Green that year. But Andrew Wiggins as well. I think Mike Brown got the most out of him that any coach has gotten out of him. The defensive brilliance in the 2022 NBA playoffs, I think, is what you call it from Mike Brown. A couple notes I took preparing for this live stream on Mike Brown and that 2022 playoff run. Just at the Western Conference Finals versus the Dallas Mavericks was such a good series because Dallas hunted Curry in pick and roll, and they wanted him guarding Luka so Luka could just body him. So the Warriors to start put Steph at the level, and then they left him in a low and deep drop. And they had him hard hedge. They had him like Brown is just good, man. He's just a clever dude. Steph started out guarding Reggie Bullock. Then Steph would hard hedge and stop him from hurting them in the pick and pop. After Reggie Bullock hit a couple threes on Steph Curry, though, Mike Brown was like, all right, we got to give this up. So he went counterintuitive. He put Steph on Dorian Finney-Smith. And the Mavs keep hunting Steph, but if you want Dorian Finney-Smith getting an open three, you need him to set a screen, right? So on a pick and pop, what kind of three are you going to get more often than not? Above the break three-pointer. So by having Curry on Finney-Smith, yes, they had a size mismatch that was definitely notable, but they also neutralized the best offensive weapon that they got as a result of it, because Finney-Smith getting open corner threes would have been great, but he's an above the break average shooter. So, the Mavs just kept hunting Steph, but DFS wasn't getting his best shots. The Warriors play the numbers. They play the data in this run, and especially in this Western Conference Finals. So for me personally, I can see that appealing to a lot of Knicks fans out there, just playing the process, not the results. If you're an NBA organization, you don't fire your head coach after making your first Eastern Conference Finals appearance since before I was born if you don't value process over results, because the results were right there last season. The process concerned them enough to fire him. Once DFS is forced away from those corners, then the Mavericks start, running some different sets to get him involved and trying to get him, trying to get him open threes right at the top of the key. It didn't work. So worked for Golden State. Like, they played the percentages. Thibodeau would do the same thing sometimes, but it was a little more aggressive and it was a little more conservative. It was more aggressive, but only with bad shooters. Sometimes he would leave good shooters open only in the case of like a Giannis Antetokounmpo being in the post or the paint. You name it. Warriors, a lot of peel switches, recovering to a different man if you get beat, basically saying, okay, I'm not guarding anyone, so I'm going to guard someone. I think it's super interesting that Jalen Brunson was the key point guard on the Mavericks in this series as well. Luka Doncic, their best player, but Brunson's still on the team. So Brown, having schemed against Brunson, probably knows some counters, some ways to get Brunson going. And yeah, I guess one more note on that, the peel switches that Brown likes is like they stop defenders on dribble drives who are holding up the back end. I call that like the Hodor defenders. Like they are holding the line. They can't rotate again if you peel switch because they're covered. Like they would pass Dorian Finney-Smith to Kevon Looney, or even oh my God, he exists. I'm so sorry. you're not watching, but Dwight Powell, even Dwight Powell, they would like move them to Klay Thompson because then they could just rotate like, a full team rotation at a time. Basically the kind of scrambling the Knicks did last season, a good amount, but it's part of it. It's not like they don't know what's going on, so they're scrambling. He also likes the 3-2 zone in the box and one. Like, he's hilarious for that. This guy pulls out some middle school ass defenses. This guy will look at your NBA superstar with his own two eyes and guard him like he is 12 years old wearing Nike Elite socks at an EYBL tournament. It's amazing. I love it. Nick Nurse the same way in the NBA Finals, but Mike Brown just he doesn't care what you think about what he's doing. He's just wants to do what he thinks is the best to exploit the other team. And I do think that that's a way in which he's similar to Tom Thibodeau. He wants to do what he thinks will help exploit the other team's weaknesses and help limit their successes. Tom Thibodeau was like, you are this type of team, so we're going to play you like this, and we're going to trust the math and hope it plays out right. Mike Brown will be a little quicker on his feet. And obviously there are situations where that can hurt you. I think the Knicks saw enough of getting hurt because they were slow on their feet, were slower to react, or took a couple punches before they started aiming for a different body part in the fight. I lost myself on that analogy. Sorry, y'all. But like, damn. But like, I do think Brown is a little quicker to adjust, and he's a little more decisive. Like, when he adjusts, it's quick and it's a wrinkle. It's not like, oh, I'm going to change the starting lineup or like, I don't know. So I think there's something there. Any hoodle. Mike Brown offense. Let's talk about what the hell that's going to look like. He loves actions that get good shooters open shots. Shocker. But I think that's a good way to sum it up. Mike Brown loves running actions that get good three-point shooters open shots. Even if it's just catch and shoot guys. He's going to get you open shots. For example, he runs this play called basically, I would say, a strong reject, where there's a strong action, a staggered screen going away, which means what? A ball handler is dribbling, screener here, and they take it away. After that, the shooter comes off the stagger, and that's going to flow right into what is called a double drag ball screen. And that's basically just you're having the shooter come off, dive, the big sets a screen once the shooter comes off the first screen that they set. And the shooter can either take that screen and go get open in the corner, or he can reject the screen and get in the paint, dive in, collapsing the defense a little bit, and then rocketing out for a three-point attempt. So sorry if I'm losing you here a little bit, but basically the point I'm trying to make is you're going to see a guard get a screen from a shooter. That shooter might go all the way around the court, behind the basket, and then around up to the above the break area behind the three-point line. And that might be where they get a shot out of like a flex action. So Mike Brown is cool on offense. Dan Hurley is someone who I know, if anyone doesn't follow Half Court Hoops, you should follow Half Court Hoops. At Half Court Hoops on here, Coach Gibson Piper, a lot of sets. And he posts a lot of sets, and he's posted times where Dan Hurley has stolen some Mike Brown King sets, and he put it in his playbook and everything for him. So again, it's a different utilization of the Knicks talent. Obviously, it makes you think of someone like Dante DiVincenzo. It makes me think of someone like Guerschon Yabusele. When it comes down to Yabusele's above the break three-point shooting, it's a huge deal for the Knicks, not just because it's a valuable skill in the NBA today, but because it's a skill that they kind of lack a teensy bit. Brunson, good at it. Towns, good at it. Cool. Anunoby and Bridges are more corner guys. And despite the fact that Anunoby is usually more of a corner guy and Bridges is usually more of an above the break three guy than Anunoby is, that was a bit switched last season. Just probably because, it comes down to rotations and how defenses go regarding guys. And stuff I think you can just chalk up to the game, for lack of a better phrasing. But if Jalen Brunson is willing to work off ball and move off ball, he's going to feast with Mike Brown coaching him. He's going to absolutely feast. Karl Anthony Towns is someone else. And, this is something I tweeted earlier. I can report that, the Knicks organization came away from interviews with coaching candidates feeling like Mike Brown was the most bullish on the Brunson and Towns pairing. So the takeaway from the interviews was, out of everyone, the guy who seems to think he can do the most with this pairing, the guy who sees the most in this pairing is Mike Brown. And that's something that ultimately aligned with the front office, who acquired those two players, and also aligned with the organization's thought that Brunson and Towns are both key players to what the Knicks are doing. And yes, would they be willing to deal Towns if the right deal came across their desk? Sure, right? Luka Doncic got traded, so we really can't say anything anymore. They traded him to the Lakers, dude. I was in Port Authority at 2 a.m, underground, muggy. It was like February, and it was muggy down there. Oh, Luka trade drops. Oh no, it was much earlier in the night than that. It was a Friday though, right? Something like that. I mean, yeah, you get it. Anyway, do you think a little bit that, okay, Mike Brown came in and was like, "Hey, I love the moves you guys made. You guys are so awesome." Sure, but do I think the Knicks front office would value a coach saying straight up, like, "This is not what I would have done, but I think this is how you can win with this lineup"? Yes. So I do think the Knicks value honesty there. Brown being genuinely high on the pairing, wasn't why he got hired. It was just something they came away noticing. I muted myself. Uh-oh. Frank Vogel to the Mavericks was that reaction from me. Damn, do I sound worse now too? Chat? Am I sounding worse in the chat? Oh, brother. I always mess something up with this laptop, man. We'll get back to talking hoops in like 5 seconds. I'm so bad at what I do. All right, chat. We are back. We are back. You can hear me better now. You could hear me before, but now you hear me better. Thank y'all. Okay. Really quick. Let me think. Oh yeah, Mike Brown, offense. Depends on what Jalen Brunson's willing to buy into, but like I would think anything. They run a lot of like elbow flash sets, ball into the high post. Towns could have it there, and that could trigger like a zoom game. Brunson loves to eat off those zoom sets. So like, or the zoom actions. Sorry. So Towns with the ball in the high post, Brunson cutting through and getting the ball from Towns. Towns loves to flip that pass, the hee, and I think Brunson would do well off of looks like those. So look for some of those. Towns passing out of the high post. I think Brown will try and make the most out of that, especially given he just had Sabonis, coaching Sabonis for years. They can run the zoom game, and also like the guard who's supposed to do the zooming and finish at the rim can reject the pin down screen. They can run pick and roll out of that. They can attack the middle. They can, just try and exploit switching, like whatever it is that's going on. It's good offense. Like the Mike Brown teams are just, I don't want to say they're Carlisle persistent, or they're running a million sets every play. But they run sets that are simple and decisive and make sense. They're not super simple, like pick and roll and hand it off simple, but it's also not reinventing the wheel. It's handoffs and elevator screens and zoom actions and elbow flashes and DHOs. It's really not reinventing the wheel. Elbow flash, but they don't have to, but they don't post split it at times. There are times where guard the one will pass it in to the 4 or 5 at the high post at the elbow, and then the guard that passed it won't even be the one who does the flashing. They'll just chill, and someone else will get a screen off the ball and like go. Also double drag probably going to be used a good amount for Yabu and Cat. Get them going downhill. 2 ball screens coming out flat. Basically, looks like a normal pick and roll, but when you come off the first screen of the pick and roll, there's another pick and roll, I guess, is the way to explain that. So you can get some guys going in stride there, get some guys going downhill. I cannot stress enough that at local guy, L0CALGUY, he did so much breakdown of Mike Brown's offensive sets during his time with the Sacramento Kings, and is someone who I used as a resource heavily, speaking to him directly because he's a friend of mine, but also looking at his old threads, looking at his old tweets. So yeah, some other notes on Mike Brown. He's someone who has fun with his players, is responsive to his players. There's a good story. The Kings basically ran a horns action like 15, 20 times in the second half of a game. And it was apparently because Domantas Sabonis complained to Mike Brown at halftime that they were not running the action, even though they spent 20 minutes learning it in practice. So Brown gave him what he wanted, but also like probably made him regret it. Like he ran the action like 20 times in the second half of the game. And he asked him after the game, he's like, did I run the play enough? So there's a little like, I feel like Knicks fans, especially a lot of fans that just started following the team during the Tom Thibodeau era as the team returned to relevance. And I'm not saying you're a bandwagoner. I'm just saying you exist. A lot of fans don't know that not every coach is like Tibbs, but Brown has some Tibbs in him that way, where especially if the score of a game doesn't matter or whatever it is, like he'll have fun with it. Even if it's something as direct as on-court play calling. Some other things to talk about, thinking back to those Kings-Warriors playoff series, like, I don't know, the Kings-Warriors playoff series in 2023, the first round, like, the Kings just had bad defenders switching at the right times and playing good defense. They had Davion Mitchell running the second unit, high energy guy. Like reminds me a little bit of Deuce, and Deuce McBride on the Knicks. Mitchell would hit the occasional big three against the Warriors, and the crowd would explode at the Golden One Center. He would also, be guarding Stephen Curry right after that. Kings, if they'd force a turnover, get in a fast break after one of those threes, all of a sudden that crowd is like you've never heard a crowd like that before. So, some of those moments really stuck with me because of that Sacramento crowd. Respect to them. But basically, like, I guess what I'm getting to is Mike Brown feels a game. He feels the moments. He knows how to counters. He has options in his book up his sleeve. Even against teams that are really talented, he just has his team's focus on executing. Of course, they're going to mess up. Of course, Towns is going to mess up defensively the way Sabonis would mess up defensively. You just have to push, and you just have to keep going. And I think Mike Brown teams do a good job at that. So that's a lot on the coaching search and the hire. I will get through all of your comments. I've seen most of them out of the corner of my eye. I think most of them are about the coaching search. So I will get to your comments now, and then we'll get into some quick discourse about Guerschon, Yabusele, and Jordan Clarkson. All right, let's do this. Let's get your comments up on the screen. Knicks Nerds, what's going on, man? How we doing? Darren, what's going on? Hey, man, what's up? Nemo, hi, original outfit. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? What does that mean? Original outfit? Like like it's unique, like no one would wear it because it sucks? Or original, like you're joking that it looks like I put this hoodie together myself with different color. What do you mean by that? What does that mean? Nemo. This is just I don't like if you don't like the hoodie, that's okay, but I guess I'd rather know. An original outfit. That's like something like my grandma would say to me, and you're trying to figure out like what she's insulting. What do you mean by that? I'm what does this mean? Nemo, if you're still in here, I'm trying to find you. I hate myself. Have you heard any Fizdale noise for an assistant position? Asks Nemo. No, I have not. Darren Hood. Hey, Kris. Glad to see you again. Man, that's so kind. Happy Wednesday, Darren. I'm glad to see you again in the chat. Man, you got me pumped up. It's Wednesday. It's 6 p.m. Let's talk some Knicks coach Mike Brown. Let's talk some Yabusele, some JC. Let's go have dinner, man. Good to see you, Darren. Darren says he's liking the hire. I feel you. I feel you. I think Brown's resume is worth discussing. Nemo, you're back from eating. I got something for your ass. I was looking for you. Hold on. What did you mean by this? Original outfit. What is I don't care. I don't mind. I'll find it funny if you're insulting me. What are you like, or is it just like a joke that it looks like I built the hoodie myself? Like it's made of like different. You have me spiraling, trying to figure out what the hell you meant by this. So let me know. Okay. Darren, like in the hire. Nemo, one more time with it. Concerning Yabusele, future question. Gonna be cooking. Oh, this is why you're back from food. Okay. I see you. Nemo, I'm getting to your question right now. I'm getting to your question right now, man. Look at this timing. We're here. Concerning Yabusele, any echo of him accepting a slight shave in salary so the Knicks could bring a guy like Shamit back under the second apron? No. Knowing the Knicks front office, probably. But I have not heard anything, and I have not seen anyone else put anything out there. So no echo thus far. Numbers are tough to come by. And the Knicks front office is who knows the numbers, and they're not going to tell anyone anything because they don't want to signal what they're doing. And if the number is a certain number or below a certain number, then they can sign another player. So they really are not going to tell anyone. Yeah. We'll see. We know what was reported, but we also know how that works. Darren says New York Knicks about to turn into NBA players' one-stop destination. Wow. Mike Brown, Coach Mike Brown, setting the tone. Day one. I like it. Jordan, what's up, man? Darren, Nemo, thank you for the comments and or insults. Jordan, thoughts on Mike Brown's staff additions and thoughts on James Borrego's chance of becoming a New York Knicks assistant head coach. I know I can report that Mike Brown has begun reaching out to some different assistant coaches. He began this process already. Or not different assistant, like different coaches for as potential assistants for his staff. There we go. Let's circle back. Let's run that back. I can report, I can tell you now that Mike Brown has begun the process of reaching out to potential assistants for his coaching staff with the New York Knicks. This was something I had heard before he was announced as the hire. So he already got to work, man. Like Shams hadn't announced it yet. Chris Haynes hadn't announced it yet. And he was like, I'm ringing these guys up. So he's getting straight to it. We'll see what comes out. With regard to Borrego, it seems the Pelicans really want to keep him. It's also the Pelicans. So that's worth noting, genuinely. Because as a smaller market team, when they're working with something like assistant coaching in an uncapped area, of the NBA. Well, the New York Knicks are able to spend just as much as they'd like. They can pay Borrego more money than they're going to pay Brown if they like. So I do think there's something to that. And I do think there's something to New Orleans wanting to keep him. I don't know what James Borrego wants to do, and I don't know anyone that runs the New Orleans Pelicans. So I got nothing for you on the rest of that. Kevin Danishevsky, what's up, my guy? Jordan, Kevin, thanks for tuning in. Hey, Kris, do you see a world where Yabu starts? I want to say no. I want to say the Knicks will deploy him as a power forward and center. I think he will back up Karl Anthony Towns, but I also think he will play minutes at the 4. I don't think he's just going to see time at the 5. I think he'll see some time at the 5, but I think he'll play both the 4 and the 5. And especially if the Knicks, Mitchell Robinson's on the roster game 1, he'll play more at the 4 than the 5. But no, I don't see him starting. I see the starting lineup being Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, Towns, Robinson, with McBride, Clarkson, Hart, Yabusele, and even Hukporti off the bench, maybe in that second unit. Jordan, why didn't the Kings front office sign Keon Ellis to a cheap contract? Literally, he was one of the major contributors on their roster. Sounds like 65% front office, 35% Brown in that situation. Honestly, Jordan, they still can sign Keon Ellis to an extension this summer. It's something about 140% of the number that he was. Man, this is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to pull up my text with Jeremy Cohen where he told me the answer to this so I could use it in a live stream or in an article. This is what we do here. All right. What did this guy say? Kings can still extend Keon. They can give him 140% of the estimated average salary, which Jeremy thinks is like $19 million. They can give him up to that amount. So that's a lot, and that's enough. Because if they gave him that amount, that would be like 20 a year. So that's enough. If I were them, I'd offer him 12, 13 a year and see if that does it. Which defensive scheme do you think Brown will run with Knicks personnel? As it stands right now, I would think he is going to have a mix of drop coverage and switching based on the opposing personnel. I think he is going to be more liberal with regard to being willing to switch than Thibodeau was. One of the ways in which Thibodeau is physically demanding of his players is with his in-game workloads. Mike Brown may not play the Knicks starters the extent to which they played last season, but when they are on the court, they will be getting worked. They will be ran around on defense to switch, to execute whatever it is that Brown has schemed up. He is a great defensive coordinator. He has helped the Golden State Warriors win a championship in 2022. But a lot of the time, that defense was 3-2 zone, or it was box N1, which is a lot of, just not unconventional, but just like a zany defense at the NBA level. I think he will run all of them. That is my answer. How are his rotations and minutes distributions? Jordan asks. I would say generally Kings fans that I've spoken with over the last few years, because like every fan base is frustrated with their head coach for something. So I figure if you ask all fans what they're frustrated with their head coach about, you get a sense of like what's a common problem, what's not, whatever. What I picked up about Mike Brown over the years is that he does, even despite being a defensive coordinator, he does really weigh your offensive contributions in if that's the best he has on the roster. Like he's trying to play the lineups and the team that he thinks makes the most sense in his eyes. And for him, I don't think he's as strict with that as someone like Tom Thibodeau is. But ultimately, when you have 11 years of NBA head coaching experience, you've done it your way a little bit. And as much as you've picked up from Popovich and Kerr, it's you having the conviction in your basketball decision-making ability in the first place to that level that allows you to even apply for a head coaching job or whatever. So We will see. Okay. Okay, we move on. Jason Meredith, what's up, my man? Good to see you in here again. And it's nice to say again, it's nice to see you in here, dude. Always supporting, always hanging out. And that's very nice of you. If the Knicks can't get James Borrego, any idea who else they target for the associate head coach job? There's a name or two I can think of at the collegiate level that, kind of like the under the wraps names from the head coaching search. I could see them reaching out to those guys for some offensive coordination. But I can also see them just mostly reaching out to former and current NBA assistant coaches, offering them pay raises and or promotions. So like, getting an assistant coach as an associate head coach, for example, as Coach Mike Brown builds out his staff in New York City. Dirty Dancer, with regard to the offensive schemes I was talking about earlier, doesn't sound like something Brunson is interested in doing. I think Brunson is interested in doing whatever will help him win. So I think ultimately Mike Brown can get this across to him. Like, I'm not concerned there. This is a guy who reads up about Tom Brady and what he did to help the Patriots win so he can help the Knicks win. He's a psychopath, no matter how you want to spin it. A profound dream. That was Dirty Dancer with the question, by the way. A profound dream says, was it weird that OG and Bridges were good above the break and bad in the corners in the playoffs? No, because the playoffs are fewer games than the regular season. So someone can get hot or go cold or get hot from a certain spot on the floor. And even if it's only in 2 games that they really buck the trend, that could be 2 of the 6 games they play in an entire postseason. So I think for NBA players, particularly on the Knicks, with guys that had a longer playoff run, making it to the Final Four in the league, it is a bigger sample size, and it's harder to ignore, but it's still a small one. And I don't think it's ignorable, but I think things like that say more about maybe you can derive more through that noisy data about the types of coverages they were seeing than their shot-making ability. That would be my note there. Dirty Dancer, not calling the front office dumb is good in job interviews. Yes. Yeah, and I addressed this when you sent it because I thought it was a great comment. So thank you for leaving it. I do think there's something to the Knicks respecting and liking honesty from candidates. So yeah. Anytime, Knicks, what's up? Always appreciate you. How you doing? Hope all is good. Hope all is well. If you're just tuning in, I'm Kris Pursiainen. I am a national NBA reporter for Clutch Points. We'll be putting the national in about 10 days. No, that's a lie. 8 days, when not 7 days, when I leave for my first ever NBA Summer League. So I haven't said that anywhere, but I will be reporting live from NBA Summer League this year. I will be there for the first few days. If you see me, say hello. If you don't, then don't say hello to nobody. That's weird. People will be like, who's he talking to? You'll have to be like, nobody. What do you do then? If you see me though, say hello. That good? We good? Say what's up. All right. Can we talk about the cap moves the Knicks could make to sign one more vet? Yeah. Guerschon Yabusele can take less than the full TMLE and leave the Knicks room for one more veteran minimum signing. That said, that player cannot have a certain amount. I forget what the exact number is in this situation, but if they have a certain amount of years of experience, then they need to be paid a certain amount more that the Knicks can't afford. So has to be someone who's played fewer than a certain amount of seasons. I don't know that amount. I should. I don't. I don't got it. My fault. Jordan with some news flashes. Let's get to it. James Borrego is being targeted as the associate head coach. Yes, according to source, but requires permission to get out of his contract with the Pelicans. Yeah, man. I mean, listen, I don't know that the Pelicans are the kind of franchise to get into a bidding war over James Borrego, but that's a double-edged sword. Will they just be like, hey, we don't care how unhappy you are. You're working here because you have a contract to work here. Whereas with someone like Jason Kidd, people were a little more optimistic that he would be able to wriggle his way out of his Dallas Mavericks contract by demanding a raise and extension. Another news flash from Mr. Bub, Jordan. Taylor Jenkins, according to sources, fell behind after projecting less enthusiasm for the job. This was according to Stefan Bondi. This is interesting. Stefan does great reporting, so I'm not questioning it. My thing is, I wonder where this came from. I wonder if this is Jenkins saying, I'm not getting the job. Well, I didn't want it anyway. Or I wonder if this is the Knicks being like, it just didn't seem like he was too fired up. I can tell you guys, Mike Brown, despite some people in league circles expecting him to just kind of do a little bit of skydiving with that $17 million golden parachute from the Sacramento Kings, he really wanted this job with the New York Knicks. He was really eager to get back out there and take the reins of this specific roster for this specific organization. I don't think he, grew up a Knicks fan like Tom Thibodeau. There isn't that childhood dream storyline there, but this guy really wanted this job. And maybe that says something about him. Maybe it says something about the marketplace. To me, it's just he wanted an opportunity to be a head coach in the NBA, and there was an opening, and he really wanted it. So I think it's both the marketplace and the competitor that Mike Brown is. Dirty Dancer, hoping Yabu is better defensively at the 4. Yeah, I mean, or hoping Yabu at the 4, it's better defensively. I don't know which one you meant. I'm going to go with what you wrote, which is hoping Yabu is better defensively at the 4. I think he could be, depending on who the 5 is. If it's Yabu and Towns out there, he's not going to be better defensively at the 4, but you're not playing that lineup for front court defense. You've probably got Deuce McBride, Mikal Bridges, and OG Anunoby out there hauling ass to protect the front lines of the defensive coverage and the defensive scheme, the shell, so that the back lines do not have to be bombarded and defended by Towns and Yabusele. That's an educated guess, but it does seem like the Knicks want to play Towns and Yabusele together. Again, Yabusele is someone who really can shoot above the break. It's a set shot. He's a chunky NBA player, relatively speaking. I say this as a chunky human, not relatively speaking, so be cool. But, his shot, man, he really, trebuchets that thing, man. He really and this money from above the break, so good for him. That'll be a nice aspect, a nice wrinkle of the Knicks offense, the ability to set him up. Jalen Brunson driving, having some spacing from teammates in the corners. Someone misses a switch, and boom, all of a sudden, Yabu, 27 feet. Snipe dead on. So that'll be cool. Dirty Dancer will be in there and see how these guys handle all being called out in the media, or if Dolan will allow it. Mike Brown is pretty direct with calling players out in the media because it's not calling them out in the media. To him, it's just saying what happened in the game. This is something that I can see not happening as aggressively in New York. I think it's all organization to organization. I think James Dolan is the type of owner who wants that exact kind of honesty, but he wants the full unfiltered honesty, and he wants it private so that it can be full unfiltered honesty for the betterment of the team. I think Mike Brown likes a little, or in Sacramento at least, was in a situation where he liked using the media to put a little tilt on guys to be like, hey, you have to actually keep your head up and watch your man and guard them. So yeah, we'll see. Dirty Dancer, I would like a player development guy like Dixon off of OKC. I mean, that's a great team to brain drain right now. OKC, maybe Boston, some assistants in Boston, not too jazzed about a rebuilding year. See if you can't get them to ship down from up there. So I like this shot. I really wish Mike Nori was getting I wish they could just give him such a huge raise and he'd leave, but he's been with Finch forever. It's not gonna happen. But I love Mike Nori, man. I'm all in on that guy. Dirty Dancer, it's like a quilt. What? Oh, the hoodie? I guess. I look a little silly when I put my arms up like this to show the sleeves. It's like ketchup and mustard. That's a little silly now that I saw it, I won't unsee it. What do you make of this? You know what I mean? What do you do if you turn on your TV for some NBA analysis and this is what you got? You got a guy dressed like ketchup and mustard. could be the difference. Emily, I like the hoodie standing woman emoji. That's nice. That makes one of you and a lot of other people with some other opinions they're sharing very comfortably, may I add, very comfortably. Just throwing takes out there. Nemo back from eating. What up? Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. The explanation of the comment. If you missed this earlier, Nemo was one of the first comments on the stream. They said, "Hi, original outfit," and I was just like, "What? What does that mean?" Here's the explanation. Pretty colorful animal logo. It's got a kitty vibe to it. Fair enough. Fair enough. Click Productions. What a guy. What up, Click? All right. All right. All right. Get it? Like your videos, man. Big fan. Long time caller, first time listener. Go check out unironically, if you're in here, you're a nerd. Go check out Click Productions on YouTube. If you like NBA 2K content. It's that simple. Jay from East New York. Hey Kris, can you talk about the Knicks possibly signing one more veteran minimum? Yeah. Yabusele would have to take a little bit less. You'd have to help him duck under that second apron there, and then they could add a veteran minimum. It does come down to that Yabusele contract. That is the genuine difference maker. If the Knicks use the entire TMLE on him, this is it. And they're gonna need to sign like damn, I don't even know what they could do. Like free agent second year players, maybe they could afford. Like I don't even know what they do in that situation. Frankenstein's hoodie. Yo, be cool. Be cool. Roberto Torres, Mike Brown has coached high-end players in high-pressure situations, has seen it all. Very experienced, good hire. Nickname nomination for Guerschon Yabusele is Yabba Dabba Doo. I think you'd have to go Yabu Dabba Doo or Yabu Dabba Doo. Because Yabba Dabba Doo, there's no Yabu in Yabba Dabba Doo. There's Yabba, there's no Yabu. You need the Yabu, but then Yabu Dabba Doo, Yabu Dabba Doo sounds silly, but this is supposed to be silly. So is it better than Yabu Dabba Doo? Yabu Dabba Da. No. Yabu Dabba Doo. Yabu Dabba Doo. Yabu hyphen Dabba Doo. I think I just had a stroke. Yo, Christopher. Well, the Knicks signed Benjamin Simmons. God damn, man. What is up with y'all in the chat today? We're doing Yabba Dabba Doodle to Ben Simmons. I can't buy a chat. And I can't even, I don't even have super chat access, right? So this stuff just gets laid on me. They're just laying it on me. And I have to just take it for free. I'm ready to lock in. I don't know that I could see the Knicks signing Ben Simmons. Again, it would really depend on them making another move, whether that is finding out that Yabu's contract is different or whether that is no, that's it. Or they make a trade. They can make a trade and then they have some room. Maybe Ben Simmons is someone they're interested in if they make a consolidation trade and have an extra roster spot and some extra money freed up. Other than that, I don't know that I can actually see them signing Ben Simmons, particularly because they play Josh Hart a lot of minutes too. Like, I doubt Mike Brown is going to play Josh Hart as much as Tom Thibodeau played Josh Hart, but Josh Hart is like also might start or at least be the sixth man, like at least for this team. So having another non-shooter in the mix in this modern NBA, a little bit of a mess. Jess says, just in to say, Kris rules. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. I appreciate you. I saw you sub to the channel on YouTube. This is a good time to remind everyone. If you're watching on Twitter, you can watch on YouTube. Just go here. All things NBA from A to Z. Logo looks like that. And it's on YouTube, and you can subscribe to the show. We have like 450 subscribers. I think that's pretty cool. And what you can do on there is hit the notification bell after you subscribe. And here's why I think it's worth it in a sentence. We don't post often enough for it to be annoying, but we do post often enough where you won't want to miss one. You don't need to tune into every stream or video, but at least you'll know they exist. And it's not like we're posting every day, so you're not like going to get blown up. Like your mom will text you more than you get notifications from us probably to ask if you did your laundry, even if you're like 37. Like I'm talking about that little of a bother. How about that? How about that for a sales pitch? Nemo says, hi, Jess. Look at the inner chat connectivity. Come on. Nemo, hi, Dirty Dancer. Hi, Jordan. The usual suspects are here. Yeah, the hell they are, man. We got the KFS gang in the chat today. We got Nick's Twitter gang in the chat. We got, I think that's it. I think that's, there's probably, if you're a fan of a non-Knicks team, drop that in the chat. I doubt you're in here right now. But if you are, drop that in the chat. Admit it. Admit it. Concede that you're consuming Knicks offseason content despite not being a Knicks fan. Cough it up. Get in there. Chat. Up there. Get in it. Nemo says, Jeremy Cohen cheat sheet. Okay, this guy came prepared. Yeah. I mean, that's the way she goes, man. That's the way she goes. You got to have the Jeremy Cohen cheat sheet ready. Jay from East New York, my guy. Sup, Kris? What's up, man? Hope all is well. Like I said earlier, really good to see you in here. Nemo, interesting Yossi Goslan tweet about making some room for getting a veteran by delaying the signing. If they tell Guerschon Yabusele that his checks are going to clear the same regardless, I'm sure he will be down for this. Is this NBA news on my phone? Nope. Okay. Yeah, I think they'll be down to manipulate whatever. Remember, Josh Hart could have gotten an extension by opting into his player option and getting like the most money he had ever made in a season in his career. And then the Knicks were like, decline it, and we have a special surprise for you. And then they like got his college friend and then also gave him a huge extension. Like that, you got to let him cook a little bit sometimes. Dirty Dancer, with reference to Guerschon Yabusele, says this. And I'm not reading it, and I know it's not a bad word, but you won't make me say that in reference to a grown-ass man in the NBA. So, yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, you can read it. Dirty Dancer calls me the Craig Sager of podcasting because of my patchwork hoodie. An amazing compliment. One that I don't deserve and won't accept because there's no Craig Sager of podcasting. That's ludicrous. That's not how that works. He was 101, man. There's Craig Sager or Craig Sager, and that's it. Man, talk about someone who loved being a shepherd of the game, who loves talking positively about basketball, about athletes telling their stories. Really stinks. All right, we'll keep it rolling now that I got all sad. Edward Bingleton. That's I'm going straight to hell, man. If that's your real name, I love it. If it's not, it must be a reference I don't get. Seeing that after like eulogizing someone, being like, oh, rest in peace, Edward Bingleton with the super like, I'm a sad person. Sorry, that was funny to me. If the Knicks were interested in Ayton, does that mean Mitch might get traded soon? I don't think the Knicks are always interested in everyone, man. And people say that like derogatorily. I mean it like The Knicks are always going to be interested. They're always going to do their due diligence. They're going to figure out, okay, blank slate. What can we do in this situation? And what do we want to do? Out of everything that could potentially be possible, what are our top options? Cool, let's test them out. Didn't work? Okay. We move on to the list that we already had. And I can tell you guys, like with the coaching search, if the Brown Jenkins tier of coaches, that that kind of top group that interviewed, that didn't work out, they were ready with the next tier. And they had another tier under that of college coaches and assistant coaches. Like they continued finding things out, talking to college coaches, assistant coaches in the NBA throughout this process. They were thorough, man. They were thorough. Dirty Dancer says Dancing Bear doesn't need another nickname. So that's it for Yabu. Click Productions, yeah, this Yabu Daba Do. Yabuda Bada Bada Badu. How about that? How about Yabuda Bada Bada Badu? You learned something today. This thing definitely got you in hell. I didn't even read the rest of the comment. Yeah, I mean, I just proved it. Okay. Rookie exception and prorated cap hit should work if they sign the rookie late a la Ariel. Mohamed Diawara getting signed like in 6 months. Yeah, I could see that. I could see them waiting on Diawara or the Yabu. Like, whatever it is, they'll make it work. They wouldn't have done any of this if they didn't know they could make it work. There's almost something like calming with that. Like the Knicks front office, like you don't need to look into whether it works or not. It works. They wouldn't have done it if it didn't work. A profound dream. New York Giants. When did I bring up the New York I brought up the New York Giants? Did I? Dude, I probably did. Did I? No, I did not. Whatever. Dirty Dancer, yeah, let's talk Waller trade. Now this is off the rails. Shout out Joe Shane for getting a 6th-round pick for a full-time artist. Click Productions, Kristaps Pursiainen. Oh, Kristaps Pursiainen. Where is Precious Achua going to go? That's a good question, man. I don't know. I could see Charlotte signing him, but that's a total dart throw. That's a blindfolded 360 no scope dart throw. But they just need centers. I could see Charlotte grabbing him. I could see Indiana. No, wait, they brought Tony Bradley back, right? Thomas Bryant is a free agent. Maybe they bring in Precious, man. But I would think they bring Thomas Bryant back, especially they traded for him and it was the whole thing. A profound dream, trade, songs, lot to talk about there. Yeah, Darren Waller. The 18 seconds we've devoted to Darren Waller on this show was enough. John Leary, what's going on? Nice to see you in here, John. Welcome to the show. Could LeBron to the Knicks happen? Yeah, LeBron to the Knicks could happen. I don't think it will. And I think a big reason for that particularly is if you're the Los Angeles Lakers and you have OG Anunoby, and you have Luka Doncic, you want OG Anunoby, not Karl Anthony Towns, to pair with Luka Doncic. And I don't think the Knicks would trade OG Anunoby, who they just signed for several years, for 40-year-old LeBron James. As much as the Knicks front office likes LeBron and Leon Rose and William Wesley, worked so closely with him and represented him, and I just don't. Yeah, but it is interesting to me, and I don't think this is not me being like, why would the New York Knicks do this? But like the fact that we heard all this stuff last year about the Knicks and Clutch trying to like come together and reconcile, I did kind of get the sense that was like LeBron related. And I don't mean to hindsight is 2020 it, but here's my case for that. Basically, like people, regardless of who they're signed to, want to go to the situation that's best for them. So sure, maybe the Knicks will lose out on a free agent that they're not the best situation for, but like they're not going to lose out on a clutch guy because they're CAA heavy as the Knicks. Evidenced by Jordan Clarkson, clutch client, long time, signing with the New York Knicks right after getting bought out by the Jazz. He also gave back $3.6 million in his buyout with Utah to be able to sign with the Knicks. And because of his years of experience, that's the amount they're going to be able to offer him this season, $3.6 million. So the reports that they plan to sign him to that amount, that's the minimum they can give him. He gave that amount back to the Jazz so that he could go pursue another opportunity, particularly with New York. Could LeBron to the Knicks happen? The answer is sure, but I doubt it will because OG Anunoby would likely be the moving piece there. Like I doubt they use Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart and get a deal done like that. I can't see it actually happening. But like as of right now, it's not out of the picture. I can't, if I actually sit down and be like, here's how it would happen, that's where the thinking stops. Like that, I got nothing, I guess I don't see that happening. But if you're LeBron James, farewell tour, Knicks, whatever, all makes a lot of sense. If I were the Knicks, I'd be wary that you're getting used for the farewell tour and a chance to contend. Like, yes, you do know that the guy is going to give it his all. He wants to win another championship and help cement his legacy as one of the greatest athletes to ever exist. But I feel like there's also a little bit of sentiment of like, oh, he wants to go to New York to get a big stage for like, just do that in LA, man. You're signed with them. Just do that there. Dirty Dancer says Precious Achua to Shanghai. That's rude. A profound dream. Brown seems to like and push for Keon Ellis only to bench him. Was that pre-trade front office hijinks, or have you heard what was going on in that situation? I talked about this a little bit earlier in the stream. You can always rewind if you missed it and want the full discussion, but the skinny of it was the Kings front office was maybe a little overly wary about playing Ellis when he was on a two-way deal, given that the service time was limited on that two-way deal with regard to how many games he could play at the NBA level. And after he was signed to a regular season standard contract, not just regular season, but to sign to a standard contract in the regular season, sorry, Jesus. Once that was taken care of and the corresponding move was made and whatever, Keon played regularly. So it does remind me a little bit of Tom Thibodeau pushing for Deuce McBride in the NBA draft and then not turning to him as, confidently, I think, as some fans would have liked. But, it comes down to coaches doing what they think is best. And ultimately, that process is part of why Tom Thibodeau was let go. So I don't think the Knicks would bring in Brown if they didn't feel like they could collaborate with him to an extent where they can make necessary rotational changes if they want to suggest them or at least show him the logic behind it. Some quick stuff on the free agents, Jordan Clarkson and Guerschon Yabusele. Clarkson shot 57% at the rim last season, 42% in the paint non-rim, so not particularly great on that. Shot types, floaters and finger rolls, 42% for the year. 39% on jump shots, 48% on layups. This is not someone who is like a Kevin Durant type machine efficient scorer. This is a player who, when you look at drives from last season, the players that drove the most times, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Brunson, Zion Williamson, Cade, Trey, Ja, Luka, De'Aaron Fox, LaMelo Ball, James Harden, Cam Thomas. Then you have like the Garland, Maxey, Booker, Hero, DeJounte, J-Dub tier. And then there's like the Franz, Edwards, Malik Monk, Jaylen Brown, Kobe White, RJ Barrett, Colin Sexton. These are all just the leaders, just top down. Jimmy Butler, Trey Mann in his 13 games, God bless, is up there. Brandon Ingram in 18 games is up there, God bless. Everyone else has an actual sample size. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Donovan Mitchell, and then Jordan Clarkson. So drives per game last season, Colin Sexton 12.5, Jimmy Butler 12.4, Giannis Antetokounmpo 12.2, Donovan Mitchell 12.1, Jordan Clarkson 12.0, Paolo 11.9, Miles Bridges 11.8, Kyrie 11.7, Brogdon and Scoot Henderson 11.6, 11.7, Damian Lillard and McConnell 11.6. Then quickly Jamal Murray, McCollum, Jaren Jackson Jr., Josh Giddey, and Halliburton. So basically, like, this guy drives the ball as many times per game as a lot of starters, and more than a lot of starters, more than Jaren, Halliburton, Reeves, Denny, Randall, Bane, Jalen Green, Kevin Durant, Dyson Daniels are all guys that played enough games to make it onto this list. Not enough drives per game to be above Jordan Clarkson. So that's pretty interesting there. And I just think, he was on a team that was intentionally losing. Like, he was not playing for much. He still showed some defensive veracity, some tenacity. I did a breakdown on Twitter, a full thread film breakdown of one of his games. It was a really nice game of his against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Had some nice passes, some sweet passes, I should add. And he had a nice chase down block. Like, he was trying out there. He had a deflection off the back of his hand. Because he was just had it out in the passing lane. Like, he gives himself opportunities to succeed. And then in those opportunities, he's got to make the most of them. I think what the kinds of opportunities that he's really good at making the most of are when he draws fouls. He's good at making the free throws. That's a way of putting that simply. But all in all, yeah, I do think worth noting that he draws a lot of free throws. Free throw rate very high. Let me find what I wrote in the article that I wrote about the signing. He played 37 games last year because of an injury, so you're hoping he's healthy. He was averaging 16, 3, and 4, and a steal a night in 26 minutes a game. He made 2.3 3-pointers a night, 36% on 6.3 attempts. That's a lot of numbers. Let's slow down. He made 2 threes a night, 2.3. He made 36.2% of all of his 3-point attempts. He took 6.3 3-point attempts per game. Okay. He had a 27 usage rate. That was higher than 92% of the NBA. When he was on the court, he assisted 24% of his teammates' makes, higher than 85% of the NBA. So he just had a gigantic freaking role on Utah. And he was decent. Sure, yeah, they were less efficient with him on the floor. They scored 2 fewer points per 100 possessions when he was on the floor. But that said, I don't think it's super easy to just say, oh, this is a guy who's a negative because of that. I think it's more so this is a guy who averaged 21 points per game when he won Sixth Man of the Year. His usage rate was 92nd percentile among NBA players last season. So he still can have the ball a lot when he's on the floor. He won't need to when he's on the Knicks. And here are the stats that really matter with regard to the free throws, in my opinion. His free throw rate was tied for the 4th highest in his career last season. Now he's 33. He had an 87th percentile free throw rate in his age 32 season. The Jazz, per 100 field goal attempts, made 3 more free throws when he was playing than when he wasn't. So basically, out of every 100 shots the Jazz took, there were 3 more free throws total when he was on the floor. If you think that's not a lot, it's more than 85% of the NBA. More than 85% of the NBA, that differential. So yeah, Clarkson is basically the new Cameron Payne. He's the offensive guard off the bench that comes in and gives the team a spark plug. He plays off of Deuce McBride well. Clarkson really likes to get inside, get into the paint, generate paint touches, draw contact, draw free throws. Deuce McBride is good at driving and using his strength and His handle's not really good enough for him to be a full-time driving, penetrating guard. So Clarkson will be like the Derrick Rose to Deuce McBride's Emmanuel Quickly. Now McBride will be able to feast as a play finisher with catch and shoot three-pointers. Clarkson will be feeding them to him. Clarkson does turn the ball over a good amount. That said, he had the ball a lot for Utah. I'm sure with a more streamlined offensive role, he can be a little more productive. A profound dream. Get your comments in now, guys. I'm getting close to wrapping up here. Get your comments in. A profound dream. Let me know if I missed it. Did I have thoughts on the kids? Do the second-year players have space on this developing roster? Definitely on the roster. If you mean in the rotation, playing every night, I could see Huck Porty being in the everyday rotation. Injuries are inevitable. I think the Knicks will go to Tyler Kolek as the first guard if someone is injured in the regular rotation, if he's not in that regular rotation. If he is, it's because Deuce McBride is starting. So then that means the team is starting like Towns at the 5, and or bringing Bridges off the bench. I don't see either one of those things happening. I could see Towns starting at the 5, but if it's to start McBride, then I guess I can't see it happening. I could see Towns starting at the 5 if they acquire another perimeter defender. If they trade Mitchell Robinson and Tyler Kolek and they acquire a perimeter defender for those two guys, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, okay, I could see Cat starting at the 5, and I could see them playing that a lot and Yabu at the 5 a lot. But that's because they forced their hand with a move that has not been made in real life. So on the roster right now, yeah, I would say on the rotation, Huck Porty, maybe Kolek. McCullough, good in case of injury. Dadier, develop in case of injury. No extra comments in from the chat. If you are in here still, thank you so much. If you are on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit that notification bell. Something like 95% of the thousands of views we get on YouTube come from pages that are not subscribed to the page. So that's okay. That's allowed. But I would say this is an easy demographic to market to. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Get us to 500 subscribers. We're very close. Once we're at 500 subscribers, YouTube allows you to, I think, get pushed a little more in the algorithm with regards to your live streams. So that'd be dandy and neat. If you are on Twitter, just give me a follow. You don't have to retweet this or anything. It's over. People watched it or they didn't. But just go ahead and give me a follow on Twitter. Go jump over to the YouTube and hit subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Again, in a sentence, you don't need to turn on every notification for every stream you get. Like, you're going to get notified, but we don't stream often enough where it's annoying. We do stream often enough where you won't want to miss it. So that way you won't miss it. And I don't think the notifications will annoy you. So that's why I recommend it. I have my notifications on for like when my friends tweet. So maybe I'm just like Gen Z and 23 years old and insane. But that's why I make the case for notifications. All in all, hope everyone has a great rest of their Wednesday. It's 7 p.m., but it is only 77 degrees where I'm at. Not quite 95. That said, be good, everyone. Enjoy your Wednesday, the rest of your week. We'll be in touch. We'll talk. I'll get some articles out, I'm sure, in the next coming days with the Knicks having a staff to build. We'll see who they go out and tab. I really think Borrego is a big factor here. If they can get him, they will. If they can't, they will pivot hard and fast. So we'll see how that goes. All in all, thanks for coming out, everyone. Appreciate you tuning into the stream. Almost 1,300 people in here right now. That's insane. I appreciate it. My DMs are open. Any questions, any complaints, concerns, comments, go ahead there. The DMs are open. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.